Welcome to the One Deal Millionaire Podcast, where we don't just bounce properties, we flip mindsets. I'm JD Allen, Marine Corps veteran, engineering leader, and your multifamily investment mentor. If you're stuck chasing small gains, we're here to change the game. Each week, we dive into strategies to bounce your way to your first million. No fluff, no hype, just real talk, real deals, and real momentum. You didn't step into real estate to feel small. You stepped in to build freedom, to take control. But what no one tells you is that control can become its own kind of cage. When I bought my first couple of rentals, I thought I had it all figured out. I'd done the research, watched the videos, run the numbers, and I thought I was ready for anything. It was simple. Buy a property, rent it out, cash the checks. Everyone online made it look easy, and for a while it really was. I had one tenant and then two. I was collecting rent, fixing things myself, and feeling completely unstoppable. If a light went out, just replace it. If a leak showed up, grab the wrench. And if the rent came in late, just send a friendly reminder. And I told myself, this is freedom. Because when you're small, the chaos is quiet. You can muscle through it. You can hide inefficiency behind effort. You can do everything wrong and it still looks right. That's how most of us start, with the hustle instead of the systems. And at first, hustle feels like power, feels like ownership, like you're winning. But underneath that confidence, something else is happening. You're building habits. You're wiring your brain to react instead of to prepare. And you're teaching yourself that you are the system, and that works until it doesn't. See, at one or two units, you don't really notice those cracks. They hide behind your drive. You can take a phone call during dinner and think, that's just part of the game. You can patch a leak and call it progress, and you can lose a few hours of sleep and still feel productive. But every time you do that, every time you say, I'll handle it myself, you're reinforcing a lie. The lie that your effort can outwork the lack of structure. And that lie grows with every door you add, because success at a small scale can be the most dangerous success of all. It convinces you that your process works, when really it's just untested. It lulls you into thinking you're ready for the next level, when the truth is you've been sparring with shadows. You're not even in the arena yet. Not really. You're still shadow boxing comfort. But the arena is coming. It always does. And when it does, when growth finds you, it doesn't ask if your systems are ready. It doesn't care about your intentions or your hustle or your good heart. It tests your structure. It tests your preparation. It tests whether the foundation you built can hold the weight of what you prayed for. Because freedom doesn't reward effort, it rewards design. And that's where my story really begins. In those early wins, those quiet nights when I thought I was in control. I didn't know it yet, but every I'll just do it myself was me stepping 1 inch closer to the arena. And when that moment finally came, when that storm hit, I found out how unprepared I really was. Now that's where everything changed, and that's where this story is going to really begin. It started like any other day. Emails, a few texts from tenants, the usual rhythm. Nothing unusual. Then my phone buzzed. My property manager's name lit up on the screen. Now he doesn't call unless it's something big. Usually it's just quick updates. Got the rent from lot 12, fixed the leak at lot 8, but this call felt different. I answered, and before I could say a word, I heard it. The sound of rain pounding metal roofs in the background. People were yelling, water was splashing, and his voice was tight and serious. JD, we've got a problem. I said, all right, what's going on? He took a breath. There's water cutting through the park. It's not just puddles, it's moving. The driveways are flooded. Tenants are calling nonstop. I've got people yelling, saying they can't get out. A few are just yelling. Some are scared, and it's bad. And right there, something shifted. You ever get that feeling in your chest when you know the situation just outgrew your control? That moment was the moment that I finally had stepped into the arena. But this wasn't a leaky faucet anymore. This wasn't one unit, one problem, one fix. This was multiple families, one storm, and no system. I could hear him trying to juggle it all, answering one call while another one beeped in. He was doing his best, but I could hear the strain. And the truth hit me hard. He wasn't the problem. He was just standing in the middle of a fight that I had sent him into unarmed. I hadn't given him an emergency plan, no priority list, no chain of command, no protocol for what happens when chaos hits multiple homes at once. And I remember sitting there, phone to my ear, listening to the storm through that tiny speaker, thinking, this is what it sounds like when you scale without structure. I wanted to fix it. I wanted to drive down there myself, but deep down I knew it wouldn't matter, because even if I did, the problem wasn't the water, the problem was me. I had built a business that couldn't breathe without me in it. I had created dependency, not design. And now the cracks I couldn't see with 2 units had become a canyon with 10. That's when I realized growth doesn't test your dream. It tests your discipline. And my discipline wasn't ready. All of those early wins, all the confidence, all the I got this energy, none of that mattered in that moment, because when the arena calls, it doesn't care how many doors you own. It cares how prepared you are to lead, and I was not prepared. So I listened, helpless. As my property manager fought fires, I never taught him how to handle. Tenants angry, messages piling up, repairs I hadn't budgeted for. And while he was out there dealing with the noise, I was sitting in silence, realizing that every decision I'd made up to that point was built on reaction, not readiness. That storm wasn't just a weather event. It was a mirror. It showed me exactly what I was missing: structure, systems, strategy. I hung up the phone, sat there for a minute staring at it, and I knew this was the day everything had to change. Because freedom without systems isn't freedom at all. It's chaos wearing a nice shirt. That storm wasn't the problem. It was the invitation, the call to step fully into the arena and finally learn how to fight the right way. That's where the bounce method was born, not from ambition, but from accountability. From that one phone call that forced me to stop reacting and start engineering. Now, when the rain finally stopped, the quiet was almost worse than the storm. No thunder, no rushing water, just the hum of my thoughts. I remember sitting there replaying that phone call over and over. My property manager had done his best, but his best was limited by my lack of preparation. And that realization stung, because here's the truth. Most of us want to grow, but very few of us are prepared for what growth demands. Growth doesn't just add, it multiplies. It multiplies problems and pressure and the gaps you've been ignoring. The storm was over, but the real flood was just beginning. Not outside, inside. My phone buzzed with updates all week. Lot 6 still has standing water. Lot 3's floor is soft. Lot 8 wants to move out early. And I could feel my chest tighten up every single time the screen lit up. I hadn't built a business. It was a bottleneck. Every decision ran through me, waited for my approval, required my hands, and it looked like ownership from the outside, but on the inside it was just dependency wearing a business card. Now, if your business can't run without you, you're not a business owner. You are an employee with extra bills. And that's exactly what I was. The crazy part, I had always told myself I was working towards freedom, but freedom without systems is just stress in disguise. I thought adding more doors meant I was winning, but every door came with another set of decisions, another tenant, another maintenance call. I was scaling chaos. Every problem was actually a process that I hadn't built. Every tenant was a system I hadn't designed. Every unexpected cost was a symptom of me trying to outwork disorganization. I wasn't failing because I didn't care. I was failing because I wasn't prepared. That's when something inside of me shifted. The frustration turned into curiosity. Instead of me asking, why is this happening to me? I started asking, what is it trying to teach me? And the answer was clear. You don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your system. So I started studying my chaos like a coach reviews game tape. I went back through text, invoices, late payments. Why did this problem happen? How could I prevent it the next time? Each mistake became a blueprint. Each failure became a rep in training. Because the arena had taught me something powerful. It's not about how hard you fight, it's about how you prepare. The storm didn't punish me, it promoted me. It invited me to start thinking like a business owner, not a landlord with good intentions. And that's when I made a decision that would change everything. I was done reacting, done patching holes, done playing defense. It was time to build systems to create something that could withstand any storm. And just like an athlete preparing for a match, I knew the real work wasn't out there. It was in here, in the practice, in the discipline, in the process. That's when I started training differently. Every mistake became part of a drill, became part of the warm-up, became a rep towards freedom. Because the next time the arena called, I wasn't planning to just survive it. I was planning to win it. After that storm, something changed. I stopped seeing problems as fires to put out and started seeing them like matches to prepare for. It reminded me of when I used to coach wrestling. When you're a wrestler, the pressure's on you. You feel every second of that clock, every grip, every mistake. But when you're the coach, you see the whole mat. You see the patterns, the positioning, and the potential. You're not reacting, you're directing. I'd been wrestling my business when I should have been coaching it. I was jumping on the mat for every fight, every tenant, every repair, every late rent, instead of training my people to win those matches themselves. Now, when I coached, my job wasn't to take the hits. It was to prepare my wrestlers so well that when the whistle blew, they didn't need me yelling from the corner. They already knew what to do. They're coaching tools. They're the playbook that makes sure everyone on your team moves with confidence, even when you're not in the room. And I realized my property manager didn't need more calls from me. He needed a clear game plan. He needed drills. He needed reps. Because if your team can't win without you, you're not the coach. You're still the competitor. So I became a coach again. I started building my business the way I built champions. Every problem became a drill. Every failure became a lesson plan. Every process became a repetition until it stuck. We ran scenarios. What happens when a tenant stops paying? How do we respond when maintenance calls flood in? Who handles what in what order? And how do we measure success? Just like in wrestling practice, we ran those drills until they become muscle memory. Because when the pressure hits, you don't think, you react. And I wanted my team's reaction to be built on structure, not stress. Before long, my property manager stopped calling with chaos. He started calling with clarity. He knew the moves, the counters, and had the confidence because he had the coaching. That's when I realized this wasn't about me doing less. It was about me leading better. The same discipline that built wrestlers who could win without me was now building a business that could run without me. And that's what the bounce method became. A coaching framework for your business. A system that teaches your team to move like a practiced athlete, to stay composed when the pressure hits, and to execute with precision even when the clock is ticking. The business that once felt reactive started to feel strategic. The noise got quieter, the patterns got clearer. I started treating real estate like treated wrestling. If a wrestler struggles in a position, you don't yell louder during the match. You design better drills before the next one. So I built drills for my business. I sat down and started documenting everything that had gone wrong during the storm. Every frustration, every misstep, every we should have known moment. Each one became a play, a move, a lesson. Now, systems aren't sexy, but they are how champions are made. And my property manager, he stopped calling with panic. He started sending updates with solutions. That's when I knew the coaching was working. Because systems don't just create consistency, they create confidence. They build momentum, and they turn stressful moments into structured ones. And when you start stacking structure, you start stacking freedom. Every checklist, every automation, every training session, it was one more step away from reaction and one more step towards real ownership. Just like wrestling practice, you don't show up hoping for a win. You show up knowing you're ready for one. Because the fight doesn't happen under the lights. It happens in the preparation, in the systems you build when no one's watching. That's how you create scalable success, and that's how you build freedom that doesn't break under pressure. When I look back on the storm, it doesn't feel like failure anymore. It feels like the moment I actually became a coach. Because the truth is, the arena never goes away. The storms keep coming, the calls still happen, the pressure never stops. But now, the chaos doesn't own me. I own the system that handles it. My property managers are no longer reacting. My tenants aren't guessing, they're guided. My team isn't waiting on me, they're working from structure. That's what freedom feels like. Not the absence of problems, but the presence of preparation. Freedom isn't something you find, it's something you build. One system, one standard, one bounce at a time. That's it for today's episode of the One Deal Millionaire Podcast. If you got value from this, share it with a friend who's ready to stop playing small. And remember, wealth isn't built by watching, it's built by moving. So take what you learned, apply it, and keep the velocity of money working in your favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and stay in the loop at thebouncemethod.com. And until next time, keep bouncing forward.